It's lively, it's simple to play, it's fun to listen to, but it's even better to dance to. It is ska music. Hello there and welcome. I'm Clarke Champniss. Ska most accurately describes the dance itself, but it has become synonymous with that unique form of Jamaican music that predates reggae. Ska had its heyday in Jamaica in the first part of the 1960s. It then re-emerged in Great Britain at the end of the 1970s with the two-tone bands. And these days, there are more than a few artists flirting with the ska beat. Over the next 60 minutes, we're going to trace the roots of ska. It evolved out of mento, that traditional form of Jamaican calypso that has been played in the islands for the last 100 years.
Was the music that being played in Jamaica. Maybe if you hear the same sound or something sounding like that in another Caribbean, you would hear they said calypso. But the name mento was originally Jamaica name for the music. Now it moved from there until it reaches the ska.
Ska came from, well, it was like the earliest form of Jamaican pop music. Jamaicans listened to R&B stations in like New Orleans and Florida and so on, and they sort of put their own calypso intonations to it. It's like sort of simple sort of jazz, if you like, the walking bass, but with like the offbeat accentuated. So instead of it going sort of boom, 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 it goes boom, cha, boom, cha, boom, cha.
There was more a big band going on in Jamaica, and musically it was really up there, tight, you know, with 5 horns and the whole works. And that's how actually Coxsone is the one who used to import all those Yankee music and started to revamp it inside out, turn it inside out till the ska developed.
From there now it developed to people start ching, 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 ching for ska, you know. And then for rocksteady like jing, jing, jing. For reggae now it's check, 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 you know. So you have 3 different feels. But the 3 of them can put together again and make one thing still.
Okay, Willie, who is this?
Well, this is a number by Prince Buster, one of the pioneers in ska music in Jamaica.
What's the name of the cat?
Wash Wash. And it was a hit in Europe, England mostly, in the early 60s.
And how important was Prince Buster to the ska scene in Jamaica?
Well, he was important in that he was more than just a performer. He was also a producer. So he usually produced other artists. And he had a distribution, so he was one of the more business type person in the ska arena.
Yes, man.
So this is the Skatalites. What year?
This is between 63, 64.
And this is the band that toured England at that time?
Yes, yes. I think it's the very first band that went to England from Jamaica to promote the Jamaican music. See, but what happened, the Skatalites didn't go to England as the Skatalites because some of the guys in the band didn't really want to travel. You know, they didn't want to leave Jamaica. So Coxsone from the Studio One, he had to hustle up some of Skatalites and some of the different group and get it together to to live up to his commitments, you know.
So what name did they tour with? Did they tour still with
Yes.
the Skatalites?
No, they tour as the soul vendors.
The Soul Vendors.
Soul vendors, yeah. Well, here is the late Jackie Mittoo, I think in his early 20s.
If there is an unsung hero in the creation, development, and recording of Jamaica's music, it is Jackie Mittoo. I think there has been the great Bob Marley, the great Peter Tosh, etc., etc. All these brothers came up under the direction of Jackie Mittoo.
That I'm only here for a while.
Now, who would this be?
It's a number by Jimmy Cliff.
Till I die. You are so wrong when you said
He's one of the giants in the ska industry, which transformed itself into reggae after with the slowing up of the rhythms.
Would he have been at the height of his popularity in Jamaica at this particular time?
At this particular time, before he left for England, he was at the beginning of the height of his popularity because he was one of the more progressive artists.
Well, in '64 I went to New York. The first time I was ever going to leave Jamaica. '64 to the World Sphere, and then that was where I met Chris Blackwell. And he invited me to come to England, which I didn't want to go at the time, because I had other offers in America which I could have accepted. But he being he grew up in Jamaica. He had a feeling for the music, and plus he had Milli Small, who had just made it, was a Jamaican. So I thought there would be an easier communication if I went with him. So, and I wanted to leave Jamaica because I was at the top in Jamaica, and you know, it wasn't much further to go in Jamaica.
So by 1965, ska had successfully crossed the Atlantic to Great Britain, where it was also known as Blue Beat. Ska was not only successful with the transplanted West Indian community, but also with the new British youth cult, Skinheads. Such artists as Desmond, Harry J and the All-Stars and the Pioneers all had ska hits in the United Kingdom, but by 1969 the beat had changed and it was called reggae. One of the big exponents of reggae music as far as record labels were concerned was Island Records. Their debt to ska music was repaid when on the 25th anniversary of Island Records they re-released the video for Milli Small's My Boy Lolli-Pop, and they included not only Milli's performance but also artists that had made it big with Island Records, a company whose first building block was this song. Coming up, the two-tone movement headed up by the Specials.
Jerry formed the band, but he sort of got the people together in mid-1977, and sort of, I think that's sort of the bare facts, really.
I guess one of the first major gigs you did was with the Clash.
Yeah, we did the tour with them, supporting them. Well, we did punk and reggae then. You know, we didn't have it as well integrated as we have now.
You weren't fully turned on to ska at the time that you were touring with the Clash?
Not really. We had a couple of ska sort of numbers in.
Elvis Costello produced all but one of the songs on the album that you've got out now.
That's
How did you meet up with him?
He was a fan. He liked us. He heard the record on the radio on sort of the Friday, and on the Sunday came to see us when we were playing in London. Came in, said he liked us, and came to about sort of 12 sort of concerts as a fan, and was seen dancing down the front. Yeah, it was suggested that, you know, when we had an LP to do, that he would produce it, and we sort of worried about it. But so we decided it would be okay, because like he wasn't so much a producer as like an observer, if you like, and we didn't have that much time to do it. So you really needed someone outside of the group to say, you know, yes, that's the one, you know, don't do any more, or you know, that'll do, or that's wrong, or that's right. You know.
Do you think
it was our first time in the studio anyway. We didn't have sort of that much experience really. Ska was always sort of in England. It was taken up by the mods in like the early to mid 60s, who sort of danced to like Tamla Motown, Stax Atlantic and Blue Beat. So whenever you went to a disco, you know, you always got to hear Al Capone by Prince Buster or Guns of Navarone by the Skatalites, things like that.
For the last half of 1979, a lot of soul Tamla music was being played. There was a big like mod revival as well, you know. All the Tamla Motown singles were reissued, everything, so, and the film Quadrophenia. Yeah, it was very popular, it was sort of a big resurgence. I think you always get that between sort of different big modern crazes of music. There's always a period in the middle where people go back to listening to things that they remember were very good, and it sort of starts off again. I think that was what was happening. A lot of 60s music was being played.
Does this follow the mod revival that's going on now in England, this revival of ska music? Because it's been almost 15 years now.
It's just a coincidence, really.
Yeah, it's like we would be playing, you know, the music that we are playing, regardless of, you know, this sort of mod revival. The mod revival that's going on at the moment is more to do with sort of scooters and stripy jackets than it is with actual sort of the music that the mods used to listen to.
In Britain, the punks came before the two-tone bands and the kind of thing we're doing. So, I mean, it kind of evolved. A lot of the ways it evolved out of that punk era, and it's taken a lot of the things, a lot of the social attitudes of that along with it.
Did it come through the punk new wave scene?
Yeah, I think it did. It started where in Birmingham, I think. I mean, I think it was basically just an extension of the reggae thing, you know, but it was a lot livelier. And definitely, I mean, it came after sort of the Sex Pistols punk scene.
God save the Queen! She ain't no human being! There is no future! And England's screaming!
Jerry, you probably were the one responsible for starting the two-tone label as well.
Well, not really. That was a combination of people.
How did it come about?
Well, we just had to have a label to release our own record on because it was an independent release, Gangsters. And Horace and I designed the logo and thought of the name.
I think we just came to the conclusion if you want something doing, it's best to do it yourself, you know? Which I think was what the whole punk ethic was about in the first place, really.
Ska, K.C.C will return.
Fact in England means type of material that's two colours at once. I think people here seem to think it means black and white check, but it doesn't.
What about some of the other groups that you've got signed to the Two-Tone label now?
The Body Snatchers, The Beat, Madness, and The Selector.
Has it bothered you at all that the media seems to have lumped the Selector, the Specials, and Madness into one label and just called it Two-Tone rather than realizing that each band is individual with individual personalities and things like that?
Well, the Specials and the Selector are on the Two-Tone label. Madness did a one-off single, Prince, for Two-Tone, and then signed to Stiff. It doesn't exactly bother us because it gives us some identity, and it also gives the kids some identity. You know, in Britain particularly, you know, there's been a whole sort of movement around it as well, which is really what we wanted to happen.
We saw their name on a toilet door in London and went down to see them, liked them, said, you know, do you want to do some concerts with us? And they did. And
chalky sags of Chelsea written on a wall, I thought.
Well, they played in a pub that we go in all the time in London. We hadn't really heard of them, just went down to see them, and they were really similar to us.
We don't like everyone sort of lumping us all in the same bag, us, the Specials and Selector, right, which they do. But there is a similarity between all three bands, and it's good really, because if we played last night, now if the Selector came to town or something, a lot of people would come to see them because they'd seen us.
What's been happening in Coventry, which is where the Specials and the Selector come from, I mean, for the past 5 years, black and white people have been playing in bands together, but thinking not very much of it. And suddenly the media decides it's a great big thing, as though it's never ever happened before, when if they'd had their eyes open, they might have noticed.
We take some early ska covers and do them, and in the same way, the influence is broadleaf ska. Prince Buster, people like that are veterans of ska, but I mean, more influential people are the people who've been in our kind of musical lives in the last 10 years. You know, probably in the soul, R&B, rock, etc., reggae.
I understand that you're pretty turned on by Billie Holiday and some of the blues singers of the 20s and 30s?
No, just Billie Holiday, really, and Janis Joplin, and Mick Jagger.
Can you edit that out?
He's
is a comeback. He disappeared for a long time. He had a top 10 hit in the US. I don't know whether it was a hit in Canada with the Israelites. And we've re-recorded that and put it back on the album. There's a lot of old stuff that's been re-recorded. It was stuff that he wanted to get out of his system. And, you know, the album's called Black and Decker, and it's just a whole new identity for him. Dave,
a lot of ska influence in there.
Yeah, it is. It's very much ska. It's very much in that sort of original Milli Small type ska format.
We'll be back with the beat.
We only started to combat boredom. No idea of being a success, you know what I mean? We're just so sick of what we were doing, we had to do something. It felt like it was either throwing bricks or slamming away on a guitar.
Mirror in the bathroom, please don't freak. The door is locked, just you and me. Can I take you to a restaurant that's got glass tables? You can watch yourself while you are eating. Mirror in the bathroom, I just can't stop it. Every Saturday you see me window shopping. Find no interest in the racks and shelves, just 1,000 reflections of my own sweet self, 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 self. around, there's got glass tables. You can watch yourself while you are eating. Mirror in the bathroom. Mirror in the bathroom. Mirror in the bathroom. Mirror in the bathroom.
The trouble with saying you're a ska band makes out that you're just a revivalist band and that there's nothing to do with the 80s. And that's definitely not the case. One of the starting points that we used was ska, but we used reggae and the 3-minute pop single, dub music, all sorts of different things that were influencing us, plus our own sort of style of playing. We wanted to mix those all up together. A dance band is definitely, we are a dance band. Not very much happened in Birmingham during punk at all, although there was the same amount of young people who were into music. But there didn't seem to be the facilities or the enthusiasm to make groups, and that seems to have changed recently. So there's probably Birmingham's putting out more groups than most other cities in England at the moment. While we were in England, we were told that there'd be no problem about dancing, that it wasn't the same as doing a sit-down venue in England, which we've never done. Like, first time we played to a sit-down audience was when we came to America, and found that it seemed like it was very similar, that the security's really heavy, and the audience doesn't want to risk being thrown out during the support act if they've spent $10 to come and see the Pretenders, you know, to waste the evening. So sometimes it's been a bit depressing, and you felt a bit like a professional musician, you know, like the show's got to go on, even though it's not sort of... If the audience isn't participating, we find it very difficult to... It's much more to do with communication than entertainment.
The Selecter in their gigs become very involved in a unity sort of thing. Let's put all our differences aside and go for it. Do you get involved in that same sort of thing?
Yeah, we don't very often state it. I think a lot of people say that it just comes off us anyway, because you've got this, looks like a zoo on stage. You've got so many different types of people, seemingly like coexisting quite comfortably, and so people say that we give off this feeling of unity without having to state it too heavily. Although there is one number where Roger toasts about love and unity specifically, which always seems to get like a good reaction from audiences.
Each and every day I walk through the streets and I see man and man want kill each other because you are black or you are white. So what's the use if I say, alright.
Have you ever run into any of the problems with the British movement and the National Front that some of the other people in the two-tone thing did? The Specials, for example, the Selecter?
Yeah, we had a little bit of it. Yeah, it's only been once where we've ever had to stop playing. And it's never, like, finished the performance. You just ask the rest of the audience how they feel about it. Suddenly, like, 20 thugs start hearing 2,000 people going, woo! They sort of disappear, you know, shrink up and just walk away. They seem to be losing it a bit in England. I think it's a lot less strong now than it was 18 months ago, especially amongst young people. So there's a lot of frustration amongst young people. A lot of people are looking at the British movement just as, like, giving them a target anyway, you know. They're so frustrated, they just wanted something to hit and anything to do, basically. So if somebody looks different, that's good enough, really. But I think people have seen that what's happening is probably a bit more serious than that, and going to have to do something a bit more constructive about it.
People controls you. It tells you what the people want to do. I like your best in the freezing winter fog. I like your spears and silver fashion for a style. I want your struggle when it gets me red hot.
certainly, if you're in a good frame of mind, then you're going to make better decisions the next day. And one of the best ways of getting in a good frame of mind, I've found, is by dancing. Certainly, it uses up the same energy that you might use punching somebody in the mouth. But dancing seems to have a better end result.
It's terrible because these days, I mean, there is a real problem with violence at gigs, which is really, like, sorry to say, but there is in London. I think London's the main place. But I mean, we don't condone any violence at our gigs.
Coming up, the return of ska.
We always compare sort of bands like the Stray Cats when they first started, and the Pogues for sure. You know, and that sort of, you know, you always say, this is just like the Beat, or this is just like the Specials. You know, it was very, very special concerts that they put on in this city.
Out tonight, I don't know if I'll be alright. Everyone wants to hurt me. Too much danger in the city. I have to carry a knife because these people keep threatening my life. I can't dress the way I want. I'm being chased by the national hunt. Concrete jungle, animals are after me. Concrete jungle, it ain't safe on the streets. Concrete jungle, glad I got my mates with me.
The Specials did their, I think maybe their last show at a police picnic in Oakville.
It isn't as big as it was anywhere now. It was a very big thing at the start because it was something new, just like Adam and the Ants and punk rock and futurism, etc., etc. But I mean, everything dies down a little bit. It's on a good level now. It's a record label.
There's a lot of new record labels being started up within the band as well, aren't there?
Brad and Neville have got their own labels on which they put their favourite bands, yeah.
Why the desire within the band to create new labels?
Because we created a monster, and now we want to create little monsters, about that big.
We was preaching equality for everyone, and yet still in the band near the end, like, say, the police picnic, we wasn't getting none of that at all. So the three of us didn't like it, and we didn't want it, so we wanted out.
see a ska revival going on these days?
Well, I think there is. I mean, I think there's a million revivals going on these days, I think, because I don't think there's all that much other than sort of rap music or the black music scene. I don't think there's much going on refreshing. There is. I mean, there's definitely a little scene of ska bands and people who are following it. That's why Special Beat formed.
Dr. No, from Rush with Love, Low Finger, Thunderball, Casino, Royal.
The audiences have just been going crazy, basically. I mean, we didn't expect it to be as mad as this, did we?
No. This band has no record label, no management, nothing, and was self-sufficient and selling out every date.
How many tickets did you do here?
We sold out, I think it was 1,000 tickets.
We've noticed there's certainly an underground ska movement going on, and what it needs is a band like Special Beat to come forward and everybody remembers us, and all these other ska bands might start getting record deals and stuff. So it's an eye-opener, you know.
In the loosest term of the word ska, I'd say, yeah, we were a ska band. We are a ska band, and but I mean, we play all different types of stuff that interests us, you know, like within the Morgentaler realm, you know. And most people choose to qualify that ska. That's fine by us. We like ska.
I think that ska has always been around, and we're definitely part of whatever ska is happening now. Revival is a term I don't like to use, but definitely ska is growing in popularity.
No matter what the people say, these sounds lead the way.
Now, what is the authentic style of this new dance craze?
This is Ska.
Four basic.
This is Ska.
Four basic steps.
This is Ska.
There are four basic steps to the ska.
This is Ska.
Four basic.
This is Ska.
Four basic.
This is
There are four basic steps to the ska.
This is Ska. This is Ska. Ska. Ska.
How about us joining a regular ska session?
Yeah. This is Ska. Ska. Ska.
Hope you found the last 60 minutes enlightening and entertaining. If you want to hear some more ska music, check out a compilation entitled Ska 67, released by Island Records. It includes not only such hits as Shantytown by Desmond, but also the theme song for this particular program, The Guns Are Never Owned by the Skatalites. I'm Clarke Champniss. You keep on skanking.
Okay, so what do I do?